I know that Richard Hart is going to produce the best that can be produced, whether he's running around speaking Ebonics. He's an expert marketer. He knows what he's doing there. That's a big attraction for me anyway, years back. But he knows what he's doing, and I have full trust in him with that. So I never question, like, I wonder if it's the right move he's making or not. Like, should he be, with the outrage marketing, whether I agree with it or not, which I don't. It's not that I don't agree with it. It's just not my cup of tea. But I wasn't bitching about it. I mean, Richard knows what he's doing. I mean, I don't know anybody that can prove it more than him. And so I have full confidence in anything he does. Personally, would I do this or that? That's a different ball game. But I don't think it's hurting anything because he's putting out the best no matter what he wears or what he says or what he leads you to believe is going on. Behind the scenes, he's making something incredible. And what you see is never going to be what you're getting. He's proven that too. It's always better, So the humble Richard Hart thing, it's pretty cool, I guess. I don't like anybody when they're over dramatic in any direction. It makes it hard to believe. But again, that's Richard. So I understand Richard. I know that it's beyond that with him. He has to do it that way. And there's a reason why. And I mean, he's a man of planning, and he's a very extremely calculated individual, which is great for success in any field. But he knows what he's doing. And there's a 100%, there's a reason why every move he makes or every word he lets you see is out there. And it's ultimately, believe it or not, to pad our own bags. We have a leader out there running around the world looking like an asshole, sounding like an asshole, doing this, doing that, sacrificing his life in a way, right? Just to pad our bags of the community that believes in him. He's doing this shit at the end of the day to do what he has to do to get people to realize that this is healthy for humanity. And it can make you rich. He knows people want to get rich. And it does both, right? So he's going to do everything in his power to get as many people as he can to see that and to live that and to taste that. Regardless of what it takes. You don't see any of these Bill Gateses or super fucking rich, smart guys running around the world doing anything for you. Maybe for the shareholders, right? But they don't care about anything like that. I mean, Richard's doing everything for us. People dog him, and it pisses me off. He's never, ever, ever once done anything to mislead anybody.
If he's taking the beating because he believes in Hex, then okay, that's one thing. Now, if he's taking the beating because there's money involved and because he's got a lot of money, or he's protecting his own self-interest in his own bags, or because the sacrifice set supplied a particular address with $1 billion plus, these are all different reasons to be motivated to put up with this.
I know most people couldn't handle being slandered and lied about in the whole 9 yards constantly when they know hundreds of thousands of people have witnessed and experienced that he's doing nothing but good. I mean, that's tough.
Okay, with 120,000 stakers, imagine if he's able to make, and let's just take half of them off because we'll assume that some of them are just multiple wallets. So we'll say like 60,000. Yeah. Let's even do less. Let's do 45. So making 45,000 millionaires. I mean, that's going to be a lot of noise. And if these 45,000 millionaires do significantly more good than the people who trash talk them, really it's only going to lead to RH looking better, especially if everyone's rallying behind one cause. And then it'd be like if every single person who bought a Microsoft computer also solved a world issue. And then it'd be like, oh, wow, anyone who buys Microsoft, i.e. anyone who gets involved with Bill Gates, is a great person.
Well, we don't have a dictator, but we got a man of benevolence, proven, on chain too, proven, which is a multi-billionaire. You have a multi-billionaire who's packed with benevolence, who's in it for the glory, and his end game is to never die. That's some pretty fucking solid nuts to be riding on. That's the horse I'm betting on. Just show me something different. Show me something better. I'd love to see it. The financial gains are of the product he's put out. And the best part of everything is all of this is provable. None of it has to be guessed. I can debate anybody and prove anything that I say because it's there. I don't have to guess anything. I don't have to lie. It's like it's all backed up, and that's comfortable knowing that. And how many multi-billionaire benevolent CEOs of companies can sit there and just tweet with you, or shoot the shit with you, or take your advice for something? people don't realize how many times Richard Hart has changed his idea on the recommendation of one of our community members. Like he listens. He's not too proud to change something. Why do you think we're waiting 2 years for this fucking thing here? Why do you think we waited 2 years for Hex? We sat there for 2 years waiting for Hex, just like we're doing right now, waiting 2 years for Pulsechain. That's why I'm not fazed by it, because I understand it.
From your perspective of getting in, so you were in before the AA lobby and the free, or with the AA lobby and with the free claim, or around there, or the year after it launched, right?
Yeah, that was the first 351 days was the AA lobby, right?
So after the AA lobby was finished and the big payday was done, and I'm effectively assuming that that's going to be like our sacrifice phase / waiting for product to get done and finished. So basically, you sacrificed already, you've done your stuff, you already took part in the AA. We're just going to use this term even though it's not right. You took part in the AA. Pulsechain goes live, and then this is like that first 365 days after the AA ends. What strategy would you suggest someone who's coming in to the Richard Hart ecosystem that has already taken place in effectively the AA, the sacrifice phase, in the first 365 days when it comes out?
Well, first of all, I think it's apples and oranges. The AA and Hex compared to the sacrifice and Pulse. The AA and Hex are two totally different ball games to begin with in their own rights, but they're tied together.
And is that because it was compounding what everyone didn't get to be able to get it to the big payday at some point within that year?
Well, it was just the actual the structure of the AA and how it performed, and you minted tokens, and but it's nothing like a sacrifice. Like the logistics of it were absolutely totally different than like the sacrifice for Pulse. A lot of people think that there was a sacrifice for Hex, but there wasn't. The Pulse sacrifice is the first ever sacrifice ever.
So to clarify with this, the AA was more like you were getting the tokens. There might not have been an easily identifiable dollar figure, but there was the ETH figure that you were going to, so you were already understanding price parity. And that's kind of the difference, because you were getting your tokens throughout the entire process. Unlike with the Pulsechain sacrifice, Pulsex sacrifice, you weren't given anything besides maybe a receipt on a blockchain.
Exactly. That's what it was, because it was a sacrifice. You knew right then and there when you sent in your sacrifice, you sent in your ETH or whatever for your Hex for sacrifice points. That's all in hope, but nothing in guarantee. That's not what a sacrifice is.
Right.
That's one of the things that when you asked me about what I recommend or about a strategy for Pulse, I mean, it's challenging because we were protected from ourselves. I know I was. I don't know where I'd be today if not for the locking mechanism of Hex. People make light of it. People don't like it. That's what turns people off, some of them. But to me, it was a lifesaver, in a literal sense as well. And like, Pulse isn't going to have that. You're going to have something, probably one of the most powerful, valuable assets ever in your hands, which you could lose in a second just by God only knows what you do. Hex can protect you from that. Like Pulse is a little bit different. So at the very minimum, everybody's strategy should be, if you have a Genesis wallet for Pulse, that's going to pay huge dividends down the road. In the short term too, but like you need to protect that big time, and you got to protect everything on it. So as soon as you get your coins, immediately move them to another wallet, get them off that address, put them into hardware wallet, into a Trezor or a Ledger, because you can't stake them anywhere else right now. There's no staking mechanism in Pulse, which means you are your worst enemy, and you're the only one who can fuck it up for yourself. So
So we aren't going to be able to delegate to the validators?
We don't know. I mean, in the beginning we were, and then when Richard made the pivot, that changed things up. And we don't really know.
Because Ethereum doesn't let you delegate to validators.
Right. So we're up against. We don't know. I mean, we don't even know what we're going to get. But I don't think it's going to be anything. No, there's obviously no locking mechanism like Hex is. And in terms, there's going to be some third parties that come out with some locking things and such. But you got to be extremely skeptical of that too. Not just of the people running them, but the strength of their code.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Because Ethereum, someone could write a code that would allow someone to delegate to a validator. And they'd have to figure out all the other code, how they do inflation, how they do rewards. So that same thing could be done for Pulsechain. Just who does it? Whether it's the Pulsechain devs or third-party devs. That's what you're basically saying, right?
Yeah, Richard Hart devs. That's where I start to look. Whatever point he would make, that's what my lead is. I mean, he's the only one I really can truly trust, that to make the best decision for everything that he does. So that's kind of where I start my point from and my lead from. So in terms
So
of
what do you think most people do hold Richard Destakaya's team, regardless of Hex? Let's take Hex out of the equation. Is it, and I know it's hard to do that, I think, and this is my personal belief, it's because
wait, what was the
out of
question first?
anyone.
What was the
Mhm.
question first?
So, why do people put their faith in Richard? My thought is it's because out of all the people that seem to talk about cryptocurrency, I don't really see people that talk about it from the standpoint of like passion and I want this thing to succeed. But like fucking, you see Richard and that dude literally talks about get into crypto, get into crypto, get into crypto, put this much into go into crypto. Even if you say fine, fuck Hex, Bitcoin or Ethereum, like literally he is pushing cryptocurrency as hard as he can because that's either where all of his bags are or he believes in it. And I think that that's what I see people put their faith in. But what do you see people put their faith in for Richard for?
Oh, that's tough. People look at Richard, and that's a good question because I don't trust people to begin with what they're thinking. I don't know what they're. I mean, most people are thinking the wrong way anyway. So like, I don't even know like what people see in him, what makes them believe in Richard and to come into something that he invests in or believe in him. I think that if anything would be Richard, no matter what he talks about it, he backs it up with facts. If he says this is the best performing, blah blah blah, it is. I mean, crypto is where it's at. It's the highest performing, asset class in the history of the world. Okay, well, that's a common fact and all, but big picture, Richard sees that and he knows that, and he knows that you're not going to make any money in real estate or fucking whatever. Or if you are, you're taking huge risks for the rewards you're getting. You can do this over there, do that, but this not only is it the safest if you know where you're putting your money here in crypto. He knows this is the future, and he believes that. If the future was in the lollipop business industry, Richard would be there, and he'd be fucking doing 8-hour streams, sucking on a lollipop, doing his thing, getting his word out message to the world. He doesn't care. I mean, look at him. He can pivot, and he does pivot all the time. I mean, he pivoted this whole blockchain. I mean, we were rolling, and he had a product 75% complete during the last 2 years here, and then all of a sudden he just scratches it all, out the window. We're starting over, and we're going with Ethereum 2.0 now. We're forking something different now. Why? Because that was the best thing to do. That was the best thing to do at the time. And for all he knows, that was for the future and for the betterment of the community. That's the best thing to do. And that's what he did. And it takes a lot of balls to do that. I don't know how many people would have gone that far to tell their community, hey guys, I know you did all this already and did all that, but we're going to do something else now. I mean, that's so he's in it because he knows he believes in it. And that's what he cares about most. It's not the
And he
money,
also
it's the
apologized for
glory.
saying that there wouldn't be a V4. And I don't know many times I've heard Richard publicly apologize or type "I'm sorry" specifically, but it's maybe a handful of times I've seen him say "I'm sorry," and like I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do too. That means a lot, and I think another reason that people are starting to catch on to is, I mean, how many people he saved and he could have saved and tried to save, over 2022 alone. It's just like, Celsius would not have happened if people, let's just say it, if they all listen to if they all listen to Richard as an example. Like he's preached against all of these bad actors well in advance in great detail down to the name, and it's almost kind of bizarre and freaky, but like it's all documented. These aren't like half-assed this or that. It's all on paper, on video of him calling these things out long before they ever happen, and it's scary and it's eerie, but it's like there, and it's not a coincidence, obviously. He did the same thing with the callings. I mean, if you look at his calls, I mean, he calls tops, he calls bottoms. It's all documented. It's all there to see. It's not, you're not taking somebody's word for it. He backs these things up with facts. And I think that's what gets people the most. It gets the smart people. People that pay attention and can think for themselves, those are the ones that are going to, obviously excel faster and find Hex and Richard, because if you're the average person and you see that, you're turned off by it, But he understands. That's why the average person is the average person.
So he always made the good point about, especially when Hex was on a run up, that basically doubled, 11 doublings, all this other stuff. Some people don't care about 200x gains. Some people literally only care about 2, 3, 4, 5, something. I'm not going to say small, but smaller than the outsized returns.
Right.
And while no one can guarantee a price, no one can guarantee where something is going to go in the future. Whenever you look at things like decentralized exchanges, whenever you look at the coins with admin keys, you see that he's not talking shit on every single cryptocurrency or every single coin. It's the things that have flaws. Yeah. If you design a coin with no admin keys and it runs flawlessly, but it's just a shitty concept, I don't think he'd be mad dogging your coin.
And he doesn't.
He just wouldn't talk. Yeah, he just wouldn't talk about it. Just like, I don't talk about, So
and that's so important that you realize that, because I wish more people would understand that, because that alone right there says so much, as you know. Go on, I'm sorry.
No, it's just, I think that's the biggest reason why he pushes back against all the scumbags that are in the cryptocurrency sphere. It's because there are a lot of grifters and swindlers. And even if you wanted to be one, don't be, and see what you can make. So could he have made a grift with Hex? Sure. Some people argue that there already is a grift with Hex, but he decided, you know what, let's make this thing fucking work. Let's make it work how it's supposed to. Let's throw all the concepts in there. And since it works flawlessly, he doesn't have to run away in shame.
Of course not. And someone like him understands you're going to make a lot more money in life by doing the right thing than you are the wrong thing. And most people are after that fast nickel rather than the slow dime. And it's like, that's simple. I mean, that's elementary for Richard, and should be for everybody. But he doesn't have to, and he doesn't dog everything. He dogs you.
So why do you think it is? So why do you think the sphere is filled with so many grifters? Is it because it is so easy to make so much money that they don't think about the long run?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, it's so easy to scam in it right now here, in this industry. That's why it's full of it. And Richard's one of few that isn't full of shit, and it has the things going that need to be gone. And he's the only one speaking out.
Right.
So you have a $2 trillion fucking deal going down here, right? And one person fucking that's actually trying to do the right thing and preach the right thing. I mean, what the fuck, man? Yeah, so people aren't used to that. People are used to being told what to do, and they fucking do it. People are used to not doing and thinking for themselves. People are used to 1 and 2 X's. That's all they've ever seen.
Right. Hold on. Richard is making $2 trillion deal.
He's actually, he's making that investment. He's he's saving that investment.
So when he's talking about the $2 trillion deal, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically talking about the fact that cryptocurrency has reached almost a $2 trillion market cap, if not already reached it, and Pulsechain is pushing to hit or compete against that $2 trillion market cap alone. Is that right?
Well, I was referring to Rich out of the whole market cap, right? Of all the money, all the cryptos, everything.
Yeah.
Richard's the only one out there standing up, doing what he's doing. He's the only one speaking to do right. Out of all that money, all those cryptos, all these yums out there buying all this bullshit, he's the only one that's speaking out on what needs to be done with the things to clean it up. So he's pretty much.
Well, and more importantly, he's the only one speaking out that has either influence, knowledge, and experience.
Yeah.
So you can have the experience, but if you have no following and no influence, your experience, for the most part, doesn't mean anything until someone says, "I vouch for that guy." Okay. So now you have the influence, but you don't have the experience, and you don't have the knowledge. Well, what good does that do? You can just say anything. You can say blank to the moon, and your influence puts something in someone's mind.
Exactly.
So I think just like what you said, he's the only one that has all of these things combined, and he's doing the right thing, quote unquote, by our eyes.
Yeah. When did you ever hear Richard come out and say, "Hey, blah blah blah, hex to the moon"? Bullshit. You see
once or twice, but I think he was always joking.
Elon. I mean, I know Elon comes out there and says that shit, and all these other founders, to pump their bags. Never once we heard Richard. If Richard comes out and he says, if you do this the right way, this could happen. So it's like, I mean, you can't do it anymore. You can't do it better.